So the cycle of socialization is actually a conceptual tool which helps us recognize and analyze our individual thinking, assumptions, where biases come from, and also helps us understand the way in which we are socialized into our own roles in society. So the beginning of the cycle, depicted in that first circle that says the beginning, essentially represents the situation in which we are born. So obviously, the situation which we are born in is out of our control. We don't have choice over it. So the rules and norms are already in place in society, and we subtly are made aware of the rewards of conforming and consequences of these roles. And so through the people closest to us, our parents, family, friends, is how we start inculcating these values and really adopting the roles that we're socialized into. And so I'll pass it to Stephanie to walk us through the second circle.
Thank you. The second circle represents the institutions that help shape our views and beliefs and help instill within us prejudice or acceptance. And so when you think about when you're little, your home and your family surrounds you and lays the foundation for thinking. Once you begin to attend school or go to a place of worship, ingest media, which is definitely something that is more current. So think about music and television, but also social media. Our socialization sources increase based on how many institutions we come in contact with at that age. And then most of the messages we receive about how to be and rules to follow and the roles that we play and assumptions and beliefs and what to think will either be reinforced or contradict what we've learned at home. I often see this with my undergraduates when they leave the home and move on to the university. So we are inundated with unquestioned and stereotypical messages that shape how we think and what we believe about ourselves and others. And then over time, these perceptions become normalized. So you don't question the way things are. It becomes a sort of like dominant thinking. And if you think about examples, so there's gender norms, right? What is considered like, and I'm using air quotes, like traditional women roles, like we are in charge of housework and raising children and cooking. And then I don't have children, but I have friends who have children, and when they discuss with me like the toys that they purchase for their children.
So what Stephanie and Alankita have basically brought up is the fact that when we look at our lives from birth through to education, through to where we are now, we have been socialized to think a certain way, and how we see the world is informed by those perspectives. So when we come to the third circle, what we see is what is the end result of all these processes of socialization. The teacher in me is trying to put my fingers across. I'm trying to get the things and show you with my fingers, but I can't do that. So when we look at the last part, what we come to at certain things, there are results for these actions. When these perspectives that we have, whether positive or negative, are reinforced, we get up to two results. First, the person that is coming out that negativity or that bias or that discrimination or oppression or racism becomes distant from the target group, which will this time, in this case, if you're looking at examples, we'll be looking at issues around gender norms, for instance, or issue around race, or issues around how we look ethnicity, or how we see ourselves, or social classes. And by doing that, they become numb to the pain of people who suffer, or to people who are oppressed. And this ignorance and refusal to understand or intervene in areas or in situations where oppression is happening basically reinforces or perpetuates the cycle. So, and then the other person, which is the oppressed person, gets into a point where they feel dehumanized, they feel scared or helpless because they can't be themselves, or they can't actualize who they are as individuals. And these sometimes are oppressions are internalized, which affects the people mentally and socially and physically. And so when we come to this section, we have two options. What are we going to do? Are we going to just go ahead and go up the cycle as we see with the arrow going up and teach the same oppressive perspectives or the same things that we have learned to the generations and people around us, or we are going to go back, and so we see that triangular shape leading down there. We're going to try to break the cycle. And what exactly does breaking that cycle mean? And some of you, through talking about why you're in this workshop and talking about your own experiences, have talked about how you've worked towards breaking certain cycles, either in your families or within the institutions or the places you find yourself. And that starts with unlearning. Unlearning the biases that we have learned, unlearning the ways in which we see people who are different from us, unlearning the ways in which we engage with people based on how we have been socialized through the cycles that we have already looked at, right? Now, because these things are institutionalized and reinforced, it's not just one person doing something, and then of course you can just talk to the person and have the person change, but it's because it's been institutionalized. So we have the family as an institution, we have schools as institutions, we have churches as institutions, we have various communities that we find ourselves in. Because they are institutionalized and these institutions are the ones reinforcing some of these perspectives, one person can't do it alone. The oppressed people cannot fight against the system alone. Neither can those, let's say, the agents of the oppression. So all these people have to come together. And part of the reason why we are doing this workshop and having these conversations with you is that it requires a collaborative effort towards change. And so if we begin to see how we have to begin to challenge or intentionally disrupt the narratives and become allies to those who are being oppressed. We must take action. Sometimes we talk, but we don't take action. So we have to begin to take physical steps, physical actions to bring the changes that we want to see. Of course, which means that schools and teachers need to be able to be a representation of that diverse and that equal society that we want to see in our schools. Now, something that we are doing right now in this workshop is part of the process, professional development. And institutions have to create the space where we show respect, where we show respect for all races, all ethnicities, languages, beliefs, gender, sexuality, and religions as well. So I think one of the members talked about unlearning, and I think that that is the biggest thing. Reflecting on ourselves, seeing how we see the world, knowing our own biases, and we all have them. It may not be something that is broad or general, but we all have our biases, and this is because of the lenses and how we've been socialized. And so to be able to see those lenses and begin to rethink how to combat how those reactions affect us and the people around us is how we work towards change. So we can either decide that, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and follow the structure and follow the institution and just do what everyone else is doing, or we can break those cycles and therefore we stop that cycle. And then what we do is breed a new generation of people who are tolerant, who are respectful, who are empathetic towards people who are different from them.